Hey all, this is Ed.
And this is Kara.
And this is Deja.
And this is your Day's Dumpster Fire. Wait, where's the button? Oh, there's the button. Okay, got it. So yeah, it's getting weird where I'm at.
Why don't you tell the people what's going on outside real quick? We'll consider that the trash can fire.
This is the epitome of a trash can fire. So I went up the road to get myself some caffeine to record tonight, and I noticed that there was a lot of fog. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Arizona, we don't get fog much. Fog maybe happens once a year. Definitely not in the beginning of March. And so when I was driving up to the gas station, I noticed that there was a lot of haze and fog and all that kind of stuff. And then I got my soda fix, came out, got in my car, and then I couldn't get home because there are military vehicles. Straight up, there was vehicles with 50 caliber machine guns on top of them going up and down the streets and there's a haze everywhere. I have no idea what's going on, but I had to go like 2 miles out away before I could actually head south towards my house because there's something going on there, and I'm looking out my window and I'm still seeing military vehicles drive by my street.
I still think it's aliens.
I'm still thinking about what I think it is.
What do you think it is?
Well, there's a lot of different things that I think it could be, so I gotta think about what I think it is, and then I'll let you know. Because I'm just Karen, if we just hear Ed go, "Whoa," then we know it's
it's aliens.
You just see this aliens, beam probably. Of light come over me, and I disappear. They're like, well, it was good while we knew him. He will be a changed man if he ever comes back.
Yikes.
Will he?
So, Kara and I, we've talked in the past of, weird paranormal things that, there's paranormal stuff that we think is funny, or not funny, but in terms of, this is good entertainment versus,
Scary,
this could actually happen.
Yeah.
For me, the paranormal in terms of people being possessed and the demon phenomenon and all that kind of stuff, that crap scares the crap out of me. And for Kara, it's aliens.
Yep. Aliens, for some reason, freak me out. Freaks me the F out. I will sit there and I will watch an alien documentary. I'll watch the alien movies and I will be scared, but I will still do it. I can do serial killers, I can do ghosts, I can do demons, I can do possessions. It's aliens, man.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on par with that. Because I'm a huge astronomy nut, and there's been many times where I've been out in the middle of the desert and I've seen things that I can't explain. Not so much on the ground, but up in the sky where that's a weird light. Why is that light doing that? Wait, that light now just changed a 45-degree angle, and now it's going the other way. How is that even possible? So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if my neighborhood is being invaded by aliens, but,
You're getting pretty, far out there where they start to have a little bit more, farms and dairies and whatnot, so there's a lot of cows, and I know the cows always get abducted by aliens, so...
It's true. I don't have that many cows until you head further west, so...
I had cows.
Actually, all our cow farms have shut down.
I know,
they've all been bought out.
Grew up with... that one right off of the 202 on, Hawes?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I grew up with the kids of the owners.
Oh, okay.
And the daughter was really mean to me, by the way. She's 2 years older than me, and she was rude. Bully.
Oh, duck
I'm
that
sorry
action
that happened to you.
Teach her a lesson.
Yeah, I don't know. That was in like elementary school, so it's okay. We're past it.
I do find it funny how like women can hold a grudge for years.
I don't hold a grudge. Nothing. No bad blood. But I think about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like something happened to you when you're in kindergarten, and you're like, I want the worst for this person, and I'm okay with that.
I just want them to stub their toe. That's what it is. I want them to
step on a
jam
Lego.
their finger into the doorknob,
Mhm.
or shut their finger in the drawer, or stub their toe in the corner of the door. Something that's like temporary, but not like
Or a
Minor.
fatal car accident where they have to live off of a feeding tube.
Oh,
See, then I have to live with that, and
Yeah.
I
That's
cry
some bad
way too
juju.
much.
Yeah.
Got it.
On that note, what you got for us, Ed?
Oh yeah. Sorry. There's another car. Oh, sorry. I thought that was a tank. It turns out it was another Humvee with a 50 cal on it. So yeah, this episode is a little heavy. It's a little sticky, a little oily. It's okay. Let's say you are a diplomat. Let's say you're a secretary of state. Let's say you're is somebody that is important. Okay. You just get a phone call and you're like, okay, cool. All right, got it. And now you have to call up like all these other countries and be like, hey guys, we have a bit of an issue. It's gonna possibly cost billions of dollars to fix all this, and it's probably gonna take 5, 10, maybe no more than 15, 20, 30 years to fix it. Just letting you know right now, we kind of got an issue. And that is what happened in March, what was it, 18th of 1967. So what I'm talking about is the epitome of a dumpster fire of the Torrey Canyon supertanker oil spill. To dive into this, let me fix my microphone here because I keep moving around and doing stupid crap and whatnot. Okay, so the Torrey Canyon. This ship was supposed to be like the most pinnacle, most technologically advanced ship of the era. It was built in 1959 with a capacity of 66,980 tons. That's a lot of stuff.
That's full capacity, or that's like average how much it carried?
That's what it could carry.
Okay.
So what's strange is that 1959 that was considered as a super tanker, but then a few years later, they like landed a ship in Japan, and they basically took a cutting torch, cut the whole thing in half, and then expanded it by like 50%. So now it could hold over 120,000 tons of crude oil.
I'm picturing a big boat welded together shabbily with some duct tape.
Exactly. I just have like that heavy, like welded line through it.
Yeah.
No paint coverage at all.
No, nothing done aesthetically, just very
weld line.
How else would you do it?
Yeah, no,
I make a boat bigger.
I mean, I've seen like limousines get expanded by like they literally take a sawzall and they cut it in half, and then they put stuff in between it to expand it out, and now you have an extended limousine, and it's all kosher. So yeah, the Torrey Canyon at the time was considered a super tanker. Anything that could carry over 100,000 tons of crude oil is considered a super tanker, which is wild because by today's standards, that's tiny. That's like a tugboat. most tankers today are holding hundreds of thousands of tons of crude oil.
I how that phobia of like being next to big things,
like driving next to semi trucks.
That too, but like if I'm next to like this really big like statue that's really really big, I get like anxiety. I'm like, oh, that's creepy. Like if I'm next, say I'm like literally staying right next to Eiffel Tower and I look up, I'm like, how can something be that big?
Are you worried that like it's gonna fall on you?
No,
or is
no,
it
it's just like, how did we get that to do that? Like, and why? And like, it's so big. Like I do think about it like kind of toppling down. And that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm just like, how is it so big? Why do we have something so obnoxiously large?
Actually,
long.
so much
so
girth.
Long and tall.
Yeah, that's not something I deal with on a day-to-day basis, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, I only have
fun fact, I do want to do an episode on Eiffel Tower.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because the guy who built that tower was also imprisoned for treason after he had failed miserably to build the Panama Canal. And he had to sell the whole project to America for pennies to the dollar. And it's all because America had toxic chemicals that could kill the mosquitoes.
Sick.
That was the only difference between America and France building the Panama Canal. So I may do an episode on that because Eiffel was a brilliant engineer. And he's the guy who built the Statue of Liberty, and then he built the Eiffel Tower, but then he also failed horribly to build the Panama Canal. Like, that guy got more people killed inadvertently than anybody else. On that note, the Torrey Canyon.
The Torrey Canyon. Tell us about it. What's happening with it?
Okay, so basically put, the Torrey Canyon, once it was doubled in size, it could hold 120,000 tons of crude oil. This was a single hold ship, meaning, when you look at a boat, and I'm doing hand gestures there like our listeners can see it, but if you were to do a cross-section of a boat, it looks like a parabola. It kind of like comes down to a point, and the water level is like 2/3 of the way up. They basically doubled the size of this thing. When it was doubled, it could hold up to not just like, so if you want to factor in tonnage, 120,000 tons, we're talking about 15 to 36 million gallons of crude oil. It's
a lot of milk jugs.
That's basically, you could fit 109 Olympic-sized swimming pools inside this thing. That's huge.
Yeah.
Now, so who owned this thing? Okay, so it was owned by the Barracuda Tanker Corporation, which is a subsidiary of the Union Oil Company of California, and registered to the country of Liberia, but then it was chartered to British Petroleum, or BP, which kind of begs the question, like, who owns this thing?
Who's in charge?
Yeah, owned by Barracuda Tanker Corporation, a subsidiary of Union Oil Company of California, registered to the country of Liberia, and then chartered to BP.
Sorry, Ed, the Twinker kicked
Twinker?
Twinker. I was trying to hold back my loud laugh.
I know, you tried.
Failed miserably.
For effort. A for effort.
So instead of an oil tanker, it's just a twinker.
It's a good word. We'll put that on a t-shirt.
Oh, twinker.
Twinker.
Oil twinker.
Perfect.
Oh boy. But yeah, no, the Torrey Canyon was the largest, most advanced super tanker in the world, and this thing was considered like the most advanced thing you could put in the ocean. So
you said the same thing about the Titanic.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
Titanic would be its own episode.
Yes.
Because
I'll do that one.
Well, there's a weird conspiracy theory that the Titanic wasn't the Titanic.
I'm going to avoid conspiracy theories, but I'll do that one.
Yeah, no, so I guess there's this weird theory out there. The Titanic wasn't actually Titanic. It was a different ship that the captain had already run aground and damaged it. Because if you look at the backside of Titanic, where it would have the name Titanic on it, it was painted on, not riveted. Meaning it was another ship. And the idea was that let's take the ship that ran aground, that was damaged, and let's purposely collide it into an iceberg, and then you can get an insurance claim out of it. Because the White Star Line did get like a payment of like $130 million for the Titanic sinking. And that's the reason why they never went out of business, because of it. But yeah, conspiracy theories. Okay, so we have this oil tanker, and it was like early February. It picked up a huge load of oil from Kuwait, and it started to head up to England. So let's talk about the Scilly Islands. I think it's Scilly. Maybe it's Scilly. I don't know how England...
Can you say silly?
Is it Scilly?
I don't know.
I want to say silly, but it sounds silly. So if our friend in Britain is still listening, please correct us on that.
Yeah, no, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts about this, and I don't know, America pronounce it Scilly. I've also heard people in Brittany and Normandy pronounce it Scilly, but then in England and Cornwall, it's silly. I don't know.
I looked it up, and the lady says silly, like Sillee. Silly.
Okay.
Silly.
Got it. So it's silly from here on out. So what? Kara will probably put this on our website, this picture that I have in our notes here, but I want you to look at the island of Britain. And it's about this, I guess it's about the same size as California. I had no idea, but if you were to look at the island of Britain and go all the way down, like down south, and then go all the way to its most western point, there's a little peninsula called Cornwall. That Cornwall is... Yeah, it's a weird place. I guess it's like it's a little peninsula that juts out. It is mostly all tourism. That's where it gets its money from, is people visit Cornwall because of, the famous coastline and all that stuff. And then about 16 miles outside of Cornwall, so if you go a little further west, you have the islands of Scilly.
No, it's silly.
Silly?
No. No. Listen.
Kara's broken.
I'm quietly broken.
She's breaking me. You gotta go silly.
or Oh god, we just lost all our British listeners.
It's too late
silly.
for this.
Well, you make it sound all hillbilly. I reckon this is...
I don't know. I say that all the time.
Silly.
Like, that's silly. Silly. That's silly.
I reckon we just ran ashore in Scilly.
Oh god. Oh, my brain cells.
Silly. Anyways, tell me more about silly.
Yeah, so basically Cornwall, and then you go out 16 miles from the coast. You have the Isles of Scilly, and like this is all I googled this, like I Google Earthed it and all that stuff. It is just the most pristine environmental like coastline and animal life and the works. So they get their money from tourism, and they also get their money from fishing. The Gulf Current, the way that it works is that the Gulf Current, like off of the east coast of the United States going down to South America, then brings warm water up through the coast or the west coast of Africa, and then it like passes through just off the west coast of Brittany, France, and the Isles of Scilly and Cornwall. So it brings all this warm water, brings a crap ton of wildlife with it, especially migratory birds. All the Isles of Scilly and the peninsula of Cornwall are all about, like in March, it's all about birds coming there to poop and mate. That's what birds.
That's what they do. The way of life.
Oh man, what a time to have my birthday in. Now I'm always going to remember that.
Yep.
I'd be like, oh, it's that month. Okay.
Yeah, that nasty month where everything reproduces, as those two doves outside my window from this morning. It was very awkward. But good on them. So yeah, as a result, the coastlines of Cornwall, Scilly, and even Brittany down south in France were popular for fishing and sightseers. However, the gap between Scilly, I keep wanting to say Scilly. It's just silly.
It's silly. No, the lady really did pronounce it silly. Like LOL, that's silly.
Okay. Scilly in Cornwall is beyond treacherous. It's a 16-mile gap, or 84,480 feet. Like, okay, this is the thing that blows my mind about this whole incident, is that the Torrey Canyon ship was 62 feet wide. It's 62 feet wide. How could it not pass through something that was 84,480 feet wide? I'm boggled by this, but as it turns out, there were a bunch of rocks that span across the gap by every single person who knows anything about seafaring as the effing manacles. They call this gap the manacles because it is loaded with all these rocks that sit just like a foot beneath the coastline. And they call it the manacles because it's like the chain that connects Scilly to the rest of England. And everybody knows that you don't send an oil tanker through that. You can't. Especially an oil tanker that takes like over a mile to stop, as well as like 5 miles to make a U-turn. That's how big of a radius it would take for this thing to pass through. So like everybody called this little strait here the manacles, including all the little small fishing vessels in the area. And it's loaded with all these little fishing vessels. All these fishing vessels are like, hey, our hull sits maybe 5 feet below the waterline. We're good. Don't bring anything into this. The manacles were so famous that in 1842, I didn't know this, but there was a thing called a lightship. So think about a lighthouse attached to a wooden ship, and they would just send the ship out and drop anchor, and then they would have this light on the top of it and be like, guys, go around. You don't want to pass through this action. It's not going to work well for you. So yeah, there were, even to this day, there's a ship out there from 1842 with a light on it that flashes telling ships, go around. It's not worth it. Don't do it. So the other interesting thing about the manacles is that there are incredibly powerful east and west crosswinds. And if you were a sailing ship, if you were a sailing captain, you would be all over these crosswinds. You would know about these crosswinds, and you'd be like, nope, I'm just going to spend an extra couple hours. I'm just going to go around Scilly and then come up north and be fine. But if you are a junior officer on a gigantic oil tanker, you're like, what's wind? What's wind going to do to me? Wind is nothing. We have diesel. We factor in that. So we get into what actually happened. March 18th, 1967, Captain Pastrandro Ruggiotti was taking the Torrey Canyon from Kuwait oil fields to Milfordshire. I feel like knowing Britain is probably like Milfordshire.
It's Milfordshire.
Yeah.
I always feel like they say it's not Shire. Like they say like Yorkshire, or what is it?
Milfordshire.
Yorkshire.
There's also oh my gosh, I was just reading about it and it's really funny, and I'll just say it really fast, but they're like kind of the rivals of rugby, this like University of Rugby, and that's where rugby was like where it comes from. And they will not call it rugby. They call it Workinshire ball.
Workshire?
It's Workinshire. It's I swear.
You've confused us all.
Promise. But anyways,
I swear to God, I speak English.
It's there. It may not come out the best, but it's there.
When I was in college, I took a British Lit class from a guy. He was, my college pulled this dude from Cambridge, and he was the most British guy in the world. And I know, Kara, this is a trigger warning. This guy, his PhD was in the Dark Age literature. And I remember I was talking to him about Gloucester. He's like, Gloucester? What the heck is that? You know, Gloucester, England. You mean Gloucester? No, Gloucester. No, you mean Gloucester. I don't know what I'm talking about. He's like, yeah, you don't. All right, I'm going to shut up and sit down. Because I thought there was like 3 stress points and I don't know. I'm an American. I can't speak English.
It might be Warwick. I might just be thinking there's a share in there just because I want there to be, maybe.
Oh, now you're both really struggling here.
We are. Yeah, we're just floundering. But
Milfordshire. I promise. I'll let you know.
Milfordshire.
Milfordshire, UK. The ship had to get to port at high tide. So I didn't know this, but I guess oil tankers, even the diesel-powered ones and now the nuclear-powered ones, when you're fully loaded, your water line sits really low. And you could always tell when a tanker is not loaded because they're like sitting really high on the water line. Like they're floating like 2/3 of the way up from the hull. When you are fully loaded, you sink down and 2/3 of the ship is underwater just because you're so loaded. And the only way that you can get unloaded is you have to get to dock when it is high tide. If you don't, they can't unload you. So the pressure was on. And if you didn't get there when it was high tide, right at the right time, then you would have to like park yourself off of the coastline by about like 10-15 miles, and then you just had to wait for like 5 days before you could get unloaded, which means you have to pay the crew. You are burning fuel. You are wasting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a day just sitting there. And we're talking about a payload here that was at the time was worth about $13 million. So the longer you sat waiting to get unloaded, you're just burning money. Coming from the trucking industry, I kind of see where these guys were coming from. You needed to get to this freaking port as fast as possible. Otherwise, everybody's bonuses just go up in flames. I want you guys to remember Pastrano Ruggiati, because this guy is going to be single-handedly responsible for the largest oil spill in the world at this time, and he did nothing wrong. Like,
except his name reminds me of pastrami.
Me too. That was the first thing I thought.
Same. Yeah. It was pastrami and then rigatoni right after that.
Oh, I love it.
Sorry.
When I talk about this guy, you're going to feel so bad for making fun of him. It's Ruggiati.
Yeah. Just so...
The captain and her ship were running behind schedule. Instead of spending a few extra hours traversing west around the Scilly Isles, Ruggiati decided to take his chances through the gap. But the problem was that he wasn't the one that made the call. Ruggiati wasn't insanely, and to the day he died, he is considered an incredibly skillful, knowledgeable, capable ship captain. He knew everything. He captained other ships that were the largest of their class beforehand for like 12, 15 years. He knew every coastline in Africa, Europe, and Britain, even all the way up into like Norway and all that stuff. Like, Ruggiati knew that the gap was treacherous, and he knew how to handle the Torrey Canyon. And he knew that it could take up to a mile to come to a complete stop, and the turning radius was even larger. He also knew the names of the individual rocks in the manacles. However, his officers didn't know. While the captain was asleep, his junior officers looked at a map, and they're like, okay, we're going to spend a half a day going around the Isle of Scilly to get to Milfordshire. But if we do that, we're going to miss our high tide, and then we're going to have to sit in a boat for almost a week waiting to get unloaded. His junior officers didn't want that. So his junior officers looked at a map, and they were going to call, this is a maneuver called shooting the gap. So they were going to go right down the middle between Scilly and, what was it called? Oh, Cornwall. So they were going to go right down the middle of it. They figured if they were in the middle of it, there was no way that they wouldn't be too close to Scilly to hit something. They wouldn't be too close to Cornwall to hit something. The problem is, that's where all the rocks are. And the junior officers also were operating off of maps that were like 10 years outdated. So like there was no mention of anything in this map, even though it goes back to like the early 1800s. Like, don't do it. This stretch of ocean is so treacherous that in the early 1800s, Britain even mailed France copies of the maps telling their fleet, don't go through here. If you're going to invade us, go this way. Don't cut through here.
It was so bad they reached out to their mortal enemies to warn them about it. Amazing.
And Brittany's even like it. And this is one thing I love about 1800s maritime law is that, yes, you could be mortal enemies with another country, but you still had a lot of respect and honor for the other sailing ships out there. And yes, they would come up to each other, blow the crap out of each other with cannons, but at the end of the day, if one ship discovered something dangerous in the ocean, they would notify their enemy not to go there. Which, I don't know, I find that fascinating. That's how these guys work. So, in other words, everybody knew, including the fishermen and all that this is a bad place to go. But the junior officers had no idea. Worse yet, the junior officers didn't know if the steering mechanism was in automatic or manual mode. So, like, they would push a button on the ship that would put the steering in automatic, which means they could, like, program in a trajectory and the ship would do its own thing. But when it's in automatic mode, as soon as you turn the wheel to go left or right, no response. Because it's in automatic mode. The officers had no idea if the ship was in automatic or manual mode.
There's not like a light or a sign, or
like a little switch on, like in vacant, occupied kind of thing.
Just okay. Well, we have to learn somehow.
Yes, they had to learn somehow.
The hard way, apparently.
They also learned about the crosswinds affecting a gigantic ship like that, which, by the way, a 100,000-ton ship of its class at that time is nothing compared to today. Think of a ship that is 3 football fields in length. That's how big the Torrey Canyon is. Most oil tankers today are 5 times longer than that. And they're double hulled. And yeah, there's so much that goes into an oil tanker. I had no idea that there was a difference between a ton and a ton and a ton and a ton. It just depends on how many N's it has, how many E's that it has, and how many S's it has, and what it's hauling. But once you understand that a ton is not a ton, but a ton isn't a ton, then there's a ton and a ton that's not a ton unless it's a ton.
You're breaking me. My head hurts.
Are there tons of them? Are there tons of tons of tons?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this like I have no idea what I'm talking about. But ultimately,
I hear tons in my dreams.
Yes.
Tons.
Ultimately, these junior officers, while Riggiotti was asleep, decided that they were going to not go around the Isle of Scilly, but then they were going to go shoot that gap. And they didn't account for the fact that the ship was an autopilot, and no matter how they tried to control things, it wouldn't have worked. And even though they were loaded with 100,000 tons, American tons, TONS, not TONAS or TONNES or TONEES or TONNE''S, that's irrelevant. The fact is that they thought that the wind wouldn't affect them, and they collided their port side. I think it was the port side, or was it starboard? The side of the ship collided with a rock, and it literally cracked the entire ship in half. And if you look at pictures of it, you can see where the superstructure. So at this time, the superstructure was located right at the middle, and the superstructure is like the tower, right? This is where everybody slept. This is where all the windows were. This is all the observation decks. And yeah, it cracked right in the middle of it. And you can see pictures of this entire ship that's 3 football fields in size just split in half. And within minutes, the oil that came out of this thing covered first a couple 100,000 square yards, and then it was a couple 100,000 square yards, and then it was millions of square yards, to the point where I think it was something to the effect of 278,000 square miles of oil.
Jeez. Oh yeah, I'm looking at these pictures. That's
I have too.
Yeah.
Ugh. That is a lot.
It is. Yeah, it is gnarly. Okay. Britain's response. So first things first, you gotta get the crew out, because the ship had run aground, and what they had to do is they sent life rafts out to the ship, but they also had to account for what phase the moon was in. Since it was like a full moon, that meant that high tide would be like 5 to 10 feet higher than what it would normally be. So like their crew had to time their jump like 5 to 10 seconds early. So when they saw this life raft was like 40, 50 feet below them, that is when they would have to jump. Because then the tide would bring up the life raft, and then it would only be like a 10-foot drop. If they didn't time it right, like if they tried to wait until the raft was all the way up the side of the ship, when they jumped then it would be like a 40-foot drop because the raft was coming down off the hull and they would die. So not only that, like they had to figure that crap out, which surprisingly, as far as I understand, nobody died. Like they all made it out. So that was Britain's immediate concern, was get the crew off of there. But then it turned into a 3-stage question. Question 1, how do we stop the leaking oil? How do we stop the spread of the oil in the water? And then how do we clean up the coastlines? And it started a 10-day long frantic cleanup process or damage control and whatnot. So it took only, a day or so for the oil to start coming ashore of Cornwall. So the oil was drifting out towards the east. Surprisingly, Scilly were fine. The islands of Scilly didn't have any issues. In fact, the Isle of Scilly, the people watched as this all went down, and all these fishing vessels were out there. When they saw the Torrey Canyon show up, they were waving like, go around. Just
like, no,
go. Don't
no.
trust us. They even tried to blockade the Torrey Canyon. They're like, don't do it. You're heading right for a gigantic rock. You're going to run aground. And then once they saw that the ship wasn't going to slow down, then they bugged out. And then they're just like, well.
They're like, oh,
might as well watch.
Yeah. Right. We're going to watch this because this is going to be a podcast episode someday.
Jerry, go get the popcorn.
And my binoculars.
Yes, Wyndon, would you please grab me the binoculars and a cup of tea, please? That would be great because this is going to be...
And a scone.
Yeah, and a scone. This is going to be amazing.
Scone.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, the Isles of Scilly, they were fine, shockingly, through the whole thing. So they watched all of this. Now, if you go to that peninsula of Cornwall, that was a different story. Within days, the oil slick hit that shoreline, and it was so thick, it was 3 to 4 inches thick of pure oil floating on top of the ocean. And people said at that time that it was very scary because the ocean was dead silent. There was no sound coming from the ocean. And even those of us who've been to California, you can hear the waves coming up and stuff like that. But the oil weights all that down. And they said that the whole coastline was dead silent.
Yeah, that'd be really eerie.
Yeah. Imagine go to Santa Monica and you're standing on the beach line and you hear nothing.
No, that's, ugh.
Yeah. Yep. And it only took just a few days later before the coastline of Brittany, which Brittany, if anybody studies the 15, 16, 1700s, 1800s British history, every week they were at war with France, and Brittany was the part of France that Britain conquered. And they held on to this tiny little chunk of land for a long time. Long enough for France to be like, okay, fine. This is called Brittany. Everything else is going to be French. So there's Brittany, there's Normandy, which that's its own dumpster fire in, the 1940s. And then there's the Guernsey Island, which I had no idea there was an island in the middle of the English Channel that has a population of 15 and a half or whatever. So that poor island got completely covered in oil. And Brittany and Normandy, and yeah, this is where you're that person in Britain or in London. You're on the phone, hey France, we have an issue. We kind of cracked an oil tanker in half, and it's it's only leaking 100,000 tons.
Only just a little bit.
Yeah, it's just 100,000 tons. It could be worse. It could be 200,000 tons.
It's fine.
Hey,
yes,
it's gonna be great.
Yeah, yes, it's the largest oil tanker in the world, but it's only 100,000 tons of oil. It may destroy your entire coastline, but we're good for it.
We're good for it.
Trust me.
We'll take care of it. So yeah, I would hate to have been that guy because this ballooned into such a hot mess that the world had never seen before. And here's the reason why. Nothing like this has ever happened before. The entire world knew that an oil tanker someday will run ashore, will crack in half, will dump millions of gallons of oil into the ocean. They knew that this was going to happen someday, but they just didn't prepare for it. The first step is we got to stop the oil leak. So blow up the Torrey Canyon.
Perfect. That's what I would do.
Yes. Yeah.
Boom.
Let's just throw bombs out there left and right. So yeah, the first step was to get the Royal Air Force out. And I think they dropped 161 bombs on that ship. These were like 400 to 500 pound bombs. I would say 75% of them missed. So they just blew up more coastline, and they blew up more coral reefs. They blew up more fish than anything. People reported that they could just see dead fish floating everywhere from all the missed bombs.
That is so bad.
Yes. Oh, it gets worse.
Oh, good.
Most of the bombs missed. The bombs that did hit the Torrey Canyon didn't blow up. And the ones that did blow up didn't do anything. Because the Torrey Canyon had run aground. How do you sink a ship that is already sunk?
Now, I'm not a pilot, and I can't aim worth anything, but the ship is huge. And it was expanded. It's doubled the size.
Yeah.
How do you miss?
Okay, so...
Are they trying not to hit, like, the two cities on each side of the channel? Is that... I'm just...
No, you're not wrong. And the media ran with that.
Okay.
Because you're like, okay, you're one of the countries that defeated Hitler by blowing the crap out of Germany. How can you not hit a ship? And the reason being is that they were using not bombers, but fighter jets. These were jets that have to stay afloat in the air by traveling faster than the speed of sound. So when you come down at, say, 12, 14, 1,500 miles an hour, you have a less than a second window to actually drop your bomb. And these bombs dated back to World War II.
Okay, I get it now. That makes sense.
For me, it was just like, oh, God. So, yeah, they tried to blow the Torrey Canyon up. That didn't work. The other idea behind bombing the Torrey Canyon was to light the oil on fire.
Nice.
Yes, the idea was to ignite the oil so that it would just burn and turn into a giant plume of smoke where it would just drift off to another country and become their problem.
Just go over there and just, like, they can deal with it. They can deal with it.
Yes.
We got to clear our stuff out.
Yes. Yeah, we're trying to fix a problem by making it somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
That didn't work because the ocean waves, because it was technically high tide, the ocean waves were putting out the fires. But there, like, you can see pictures of this. There were people that were, like, sitting off of Cornwall and people coming out, and they were, like, sitting on the coastline of Scilly, and they were just seeing this gigantic plume of smoke just billowing up everywhere, and they're like, we haven't seen this since World War II. Like, this is kind of cool. On top of dropping 161 bombs on the ship and trying to light all this oil on fire and get the smoke to be somebody else's problem, that didn't work. So it was more bombs. Bring out more bombs. This is the most American way to solve a problem.
Blow it up.
Keep trying to blow it up.
Just keep dropping crap on it. So they're like, okay, the bombs ain't working. Let's use kerosene.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make the oil slick. That is already incredibly toxic. Let's use kerosene on top of the oil to get it to burn.
How have we made it this far as species?
By making mistakes like these.
Yes. Yep. So like but I mean, in all fairness, I actually don't blame anybody. I really don't, because they've never encountered anything like this before in history.
Well, sure. Absolutely. But like, come on.
I know, like us today, we can look at it and be like, what are you doing? But back then they had no idea.
They don't have that culture.
Okay, but it gets worse.
Great.
They dropped all this kerosene on everything and they tried to light it on fire, and that didn't work. Okay. Stage 3. Use napalm.
Yes. That was going to be what I was going to suggest.
That's the key.
That's yeah, see, in America, we would have just started off with napalm.
Just like that. Straightforward.
So those of you who may not know what napalm is, it is basically gelatinized gasoline. So think of, I've played with this stuff before. Think of like Jell-O. That's the consistency of napalm. It's like Jell-O, and it is really sticky. It has the kind of like the same consistency of honey and Jell-O. It sticks to everything. Like napalm, like if you get it on your hands, you can't get it off. It is so sticky. And imagine that stuff being on fire. And it burns through that jelly. It's the reason why in Vietnam it was such a horrible, horrible weapon, because they would drop napalm and it would make a fire plume hundreds of feet up in the air, to the point where I have an uncle who was he was a B-52 bomber in Vietnam, and he dropped napalm on the Viet Cong, and one B-52 bomber could cover like 15 miles of just pure fire, and it would burn for days. This is how nasty this stuff is. So they're like, okay, let's Americanize this. Let's drop napalm on the Torrey Canyon.
Usually.
And this ship was finally neutralized. It sank. So after days of dropping 161 bombs on this thing, and kerosene, and then eventually napalm, the ship finally sank, which is funny because it's now home to a very healthy coral reef. Like, it's almost as though nature had a better idea what to do than humans. Okay, it gets worse.
Usually.
So the ship has been taken care of, but it gets so much worse. Now there's the ecological issue. There is the issue of all the migratory birds, because if you're a puffin flying around, you're looking down and you're like, okay, I need to poop and I need to procreate. Like, that's the only two things that's on your mind right now, is I need to drop a hot load and catch a hot load. Like, I need to take care of this stuff. You look down and you see this gigantic brown thing that looks like land. And you swoop down, and it turns out that it is nothing but 2 to 3 inches of oil. You're screwed, because that oil seeps into the feathers and it causes the feathers to stick together, which then allows water to come in. So they're like a bunch of humans in icy cold water, and they would get hypothermia and die. Where was it? Oh, there were these animal rescuers that came out to try to like collect these oily birds and clean them up. They lost count after 8,000. They're like, screw it, whatever. In one day, they got like 8,000 birds they're trying to clean up. And yeah, they gave up. There was probably tens of thousands of birds and wildlife that they were trying to clean up. So the next step is to use BP 1002 because that sounds like a good idea. Anything that is BP 1002
that sounds real safe.
Doesn't sound sketchy at all.
Real good.
Yeah. It turns out BP or British Petroleum 1002 detergent is a detergent that they use to strip the paint off of ships.
Okay.
They thought that pouring this all over the ocean would help break up the oil.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I have never come in contact with this stuff because it's banned by like every nation in the world because it is so caustic and so volatile that it will kill anything that comes in contact with it on top of the oil, which is good. Like it did its job well. Like they had these fishing vessels coming up just dumping thousands of gallons of this BP 1002 into the whole channel and the gap and the manacles and it did a great job. It dissolved the oil, sort of. It broke it up into little pieces, which then now sank to the bottom of the channel and killed everything.
Oh, God, okay.
So even the fish now and all the migratory whales and dolphins and all that crap that were passing through, they were all contaminated with it to the point where I was reading a research journal. It wasn't for Cambridge. It was, gosh, I can't remember which university it was, but they're still finding larvae from worms that have this BP 1002 in it to this day.
Jeez. Jeez. Let's all just take a moment to appreciate Dawn soap. Which was invented in the 70s.
And I think it was invented for this reason.
I can see that now.
Well, and here's the thing is that British Petroleum or BP marketed BP 1002 as like, guys, this is a detergent. You have this in your house. This is how you wash your laundry. It's okay. Nothing bad's going to happen. It killed everything in sight. So like here are these animal rescuers that were coming out there trying to like clean up these birds using this BP 1002. And they quickly discovered that this detergent was killing the animals faster than the oil was. It gets worse.
Okay.
On the coastlines, they thought it would be a good idea to use BP 1002, and they got all these bulldozers out to, one, they would just dump solid BP 1002. This stuff is supposed to be mixed up in like a 1-to-10 water ratio. They were just dumping solid BP 1002 on the coastline, and then they have bulldozers come up and then mix it with the sand to try to break up all this oil that was in the sand. Mm-hmm. Their goal, because this was March, the goal was to be able to have the coastlines cleaned up in time for the summer tourists show up.
That's important.
Yeah. Which I mean, I can see it. Like, not only is this a bad idea and kind of selfish monetary gains, but I can also see where they're coming from, because at this time there were already tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people that were canceling their reservations. And this would have been absolutely devastating to the fishing towns and all that stuff. So I can see where the British government was coming from in terms of like, we got to get this cleaned up fast. Meanwhile, like, hey, France, we've got a poo show heading your way. FYI, it's only 100,000 gallons of crude oil. We got you. We got it covered. So in the process of using this detergent, the rescuers were getting sick because they were basically coming in direct contact with toxic levels of caustic soda. For 5 years after this event, that whole entire Cornwall coastline just smelled of like bleach and ammonia. Oh, and it killed everything.
Right.
But many argued that using that detergent was worse than the oil itself. It caused more damage than the oil itself, which, okay, now we know. The animal rescuers, they gave up counting birds after 8,000. It is believed that 85% of the avian wildlife died during this, including specific species like puffins and all that. I don't know what birds live there because they've all died, but yeah, there's I know that sounds really insensitive. I'm sorry. But there was a lot of animals that had been there for centuries that like 85% of them died from this. Since most migratory birds went to this part of the world to reproduce, either they died or they just moved on. Like they were looking down and they were seeing like all their spouses and whatnot just dying. They're like, I'm going to head to like Greenland or something. I'm just going to go hang out here. This is a hot mess. So like, yeah, an entire generation of birds were lost. And you're thinking like, guys, it's only a generation, but to backtrack to World War I, where Britain lost so many men, they lost an entire generation of working / reproducing age men that even to this day, they still have never recovered from that. For birds that don't live as long as humans do, to lose an entire generation of a species that only lives for like 7 to 10 years is absolutely devastating. To this day, the wildlife has not returned to 100%, which is wild. Ultimately, after a couple of years, they got it cleaned up. Meanwhile, in France, they're like, oh, there's oil on our coastline. Okay, let's just wait and see what happens. And it turns out that the ocean has a specific type of bacteria that eats oil. It eats oil and it poops out nutrients that other things can live off of, like corals and kelp and fish and krill and all that stuff. So basically, France is like, okay, we're just going to let this be. We're going to send all these like rowing colleges out to just mop up the beach line. Within a year, everything was cleaned up. It took care of itself. It's almost as though like the ocean knows what to do when humanity screws up.
You know? Okay.
But it gets worse.
Give me a break.
For me, this is the actual dumpster fire.
What?
Okay.
Because the media and public outcry was borderline violent. If you want to be the most hated person in the world, all you need to be is a president or prime minister of a major nation during an ecological disaster such as the Torrey Canyon spill. There was absolutely nothing Britain's Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, which is the most British name out there. Harold Wilson.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you don't go to South Korea and find a Harold Wilson.
Not wrong.
It only exists. A Harold Wilson only exists in England and nowhere else. Not even in America will you find a Harold Wilson.
I bet you could find at least one in a nursing home.
Definitely.
So, like, I don't know too much about Prime Minister Harold Wilson's politics, or conservative or liberal or whatever, but I do feel like this guy tried, and nothing this guy did was received well, because again, this had never happened before. So he was criticized for the crash, which he had zero control over. He was criticized for the Royal Air Force's attempt to sink a ship that had already run aground. The ship had already sunk. It sunk on ground. You can't sink a ship that's already sunk. But he took crap for that. He was criticized for the cleanup attempts, which were all out of his control. He was lambasted for the use of detergents to clean up the oil, which he didn't even make the call on. He had nothing to do with that decision. And we haven't even gotten to Captain Ruggiati. And for me, this is the worst of the worst of the worst. This guy was asleep when the decision was made by a junior officer to make the change of direction using outdated maps, not knowing the ship's controls were in manual or automatic mode. He was completely detached from all of this because the guy had already been up for like 20 hours. So he was trying to just get a few hours of sleep when his officers decided to make this change. Needless to say, Ruggiati took the entire blame. And here's the kicker. He actively assumed 100% of the blame. He said that this was 100% his fault, not his officer's fault. Like, he, being the captain of the ship, he's like, this is all on me. This is 100% on me. I don't care if I was asleep or whatnot. I'm assuming the reasoning was that he's like, I didn't train my officers well enough. I didn't get the most updated maps because Ruggiati knew that this was a dangerous stretch of ocean to go through. He knew all this, but he didn't tell his officers that. He knew all of this stuff, and he assumed the complete responsibility all upon himself. He actively went out to the media and told them that this was his fault. He never once, I could not find any article or any news report in like newspapers.com. I guess Time Magazine has this thing where you can bring up news articles that they published like in 1967.
That's cool.
Yeah. I had no idea, but yeah, you can look up everything that was ever published at that time. So I could not find anything where he placed the blame on anybody else.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like this guy is pretty incredible. I really wish he was still alive. I would love to have met this guy. He saved his junior officers' careers because he blocked out their names. He absolutely refused to acknowledge that there were even junior officers on the bridge. This was all on him. And the media went after him with a vengeance to the point where he had to be hospitalized. And even when he was hospitalized, the media broke into the hospital and then charged his room. And there, I have it on the show notes here. There's a famous picture of him hiding underneath his hospital bed as photographers rushed his room to get a picture of him while he was having an emotional breakdown. And it just blows my mind that the media is still like this to this day. Just so offensively obtrusive and obstructive, and just make sure, Kara, when you put this up on our website, make sure you get that picture in there because it is a very, very shocking picture.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, here's the thing. The ocean knows how to take care of its own. It knew how to clean this mess up better than humanity did. And now today, like, things are okay, although some people still report that they can still smell the detergent.
Kind of like the molasses in Boston.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather smell molasses
Yeah.
than bleach and ammonia.
And molasses.
But yeah, like, then began the lawsuits. And here's the thing. It's like, who is ultimately responsible for this? Who is, like, scrolling up here when we look at all the different, right, owned by Barracuda Tanker Corporation, which is a subsidiary of the Union Oil Company of California, registered to the country of Liberia, and then chartered by BP. Here's how this lawsuit unfolded. So all oil tankers were insured. They were insured for about $1.6 million. That was to cover the loss of the oil in case of something ran aground. Because nothing like this had ever happened before, there was absolutely no idea in terms of like what happens to the environment, what happens to the wildlife, what happens to all this stuff when a tanker like this runs ashore. Because before, whenever something happened, it was in the middle of the ocean, it sank, and nobody cared. we are still dealing with a world that was like, wait, the ocean is the recipient of all of our trash. And even the prime minister at that time is like, yeah, at the time, we just assume that the ocean is a thing that we dump everything into. So who cares what happens to it? And I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that came from this is like, wait a second, the ocean shouldn't be the catch-all of humanity's stupidity. And this was the thing that really changed that. So who had to pay for all this? So ultimately, it was the American company. It was that Union
Oil Company of California.
Yeah. Yep. The Union Oil Company of California. They claimed piracy.
They claimed piracy?
This is how they got the insurance to pay for it. They were attacked by pirates.
Okay.
Reason being is that the Isles of Scilly sit outside of Britain's national recognized water lines. So whatever happens to a ship outside of those water lines is an act of piracy. And since Britain dropped bombs on it,
got it.
It was an act of piracy.
Okay.
And that is how, because of that is how they got their insurance company to pay the $3 million payout to cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
So what is $3 million
back then?
Was inflation calculator? Not now. Okay, I'm trying to get this thing up. Okay, so if in 1967 and you had $27,702. That's what that insurance company had to pay out.
Jeez Louise.
And on top of that, that ship every year. So if you had an oil tanker back then, every year you had to shell out $300,000 in insurance in case if it ever sank, just to cover the loss of the oil. The funny thing is that like France found a way to like suck up the oil and then they just use it for themselves, like made gasoline and plastic and whatnot. In the Isles of Scilly, they were able to suck up the oil and then they just dumped it into an old abandoned rock quarry where it just biodegraded and just turned back into water and carbon and whatnot. And because of this, now it is mandatory that all oil tankers in the world have to be double hulled. You can't just have an oil tanker with a single wall. You have to have 16 inches of pure steel for the outer hull, and then you have to have a gap, and then on the inner hull, you have to have another 16 inches of steel so that even if the outer hull gets damaged, the inner hull is okay. Which is the reason why, like, after this, and then after the Exxon Valdez, which, by the way, the Exxon Valdez in Alaska was like 5 times bigger than this whole mess. And now things are done a little differently. So this is one of these cases where, like, I don't know. It's so easy to look at, say, like Henry VIII, who's like the biggest douchebag in history. And you can point all fingers at him and blame him for everything and say, like, Henry VIII is the douche. But who's at fault here? What was the right response? Obviously, knowing today, we know, like, guys, stop pouring detergent into the ocean. Like, this is a bad idea. But I honestly can't fault anybody here. And I can't fault Ricciotti. I can't even fault the junior officers for using maps that were decades out of accuracy and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm just thinking back to this guy in London. Hey, this is Swindon. We have a bit of an issue. It's only 100,000 gallons of crude oil, but we're on it. Don't worry. This will blow over. And it didn't. And I feel like, because Deja, I don't know your background, but Kara and I have had many occasions in the trucking industry where we've had to call the customer and be like, Hey,
so
your truck full of paper.
Yeah.
It caught on fire.
So,
you know that
the driver's
truckload
fine.
full of dog food that was frozen yesterday is now burning in Donner's Pass right now. The driver's okay.
Driver's fine.
Yeah.
Remember the story I told you guys yesterday about the call I had to make to my resident?
Oh, yeah.
Which one?
Maybe that was the nunchuck one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That'll
be
feels like it might be
that
pretty
covers
similar. It was uncomfortable.
If you want to write us and get that story from us, then you can write us in. But
yeah, but I will not. That will not be said on.
But
we won't say that live.
But yeah, no, that's the story of the Torrey Canyon oil spill that is just like, it's one of those things where you get halfway through it and you're like, oh, but it gets worse. And then 3/4 of the way through it, but like, wait, it gets worse.
Listeners, every time Ed said, wait, it gets worse, Deja and I, our faces went into our hands.
Yeah, the face palms. You guys don't have the cameras turned on, audience, but I saw Deja and Kara just like, oh, God.
Every time.
Over and over and over.
Deep sigh.
Yeah. My forehead's red now.
So yeah, it's super late at night. I want to wrap this up. Who's up next? I know, Carrie, we just did your episode on
Deja's
using
next.
gunpowder to blow yourself up, trying to get into
that was
space.
Fun.
That was a good time.
Great.
Deja,
It's
wait, you have
me.
something like demonic / evil /
so we've gone over this many times.
cancel culture-ish, like.
Yes, we're going to be talking about Salman Rushdie and his choice that may or may not have potentially ruined or not ruin his life.
I mean,
depending on how you look at it, because I feel like he does not feel like his life is ruined, personally. And we'll get there, but
even though he literally got stabbed in the back.
And he has no vision in one eye. Yeah,
Lord.
Is that all?
Stay optimistic.
He's fine. Life not ruined.
Just
you're like,
it's
fine.
a whole story. Yeah, it's definitely not satanic.
I always thought it was like demonic, wasn't it, or cultish? Like
no. It's very much. It has a lot to do with religion, but in a like this religion was very deeply offended, and so it comes into cancel culture, and
okay,
you kind of bring it all in. So it's a doozy. It
sounds like a
we'll
doozy.
see if we can fit it into one, because every time I click on something new, I'm like, wait, but there's more.
It's an iceberg, everybody.
This is like if there was an iceberg after the iceberg after the iceberg that the Titanic ran into.
Oh, beautiful. Love it.
And at the end of it,
and they just all kept running into it.
And then if they made it through all the icebergs, then they hit the Torrey Canyon.
Like a pinball.
Yeah, Torrey at the end. There. Oh, God.
Like just broadside the thing and like split. And now we have oil everywhere. And
grand. Well, I'm excited for that one.
I'm very excited for that one because I think I have a lot of misconceptions about that. I listen to a lot of podcasts about like, I don't know, the paranormal and weird stuff that goes on. And they bring up Salman Rushdie and like the stuff that he was into.
Definitely.
I don't know if any of it's true or not. I just listen to it because they're just fantastic, funny stories.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to get my bearings straight on this guy.
Yeah. I heard about this a couple years ago before the stabbing of the bodies and all that. So it's been something that like when that did happen, I have just been kind of obsessively like in taking all of this information, like give it all to me. I want to be an expert. And now my head hurts. I feel like I read this book that I never read. I'm still confused. So it'll be fun. It's very interesting. It's very deep. It can get a little deep, a little serious, but
okay.
Salmon also has some things that are pretty funny also. So there we go.
Okay. Cool. I'm going to have to read up on this guy then. I got to
think about a palate cleanser episode after these two bad boys.
Yes.
I'll figure something out.
Yes.
Actually, I thought your episode, Kara, was supposed to be the palate cleanser. I mean, like...
It was, but if we're going to release it first and then these two after that, I got to find another one.
Our audience is tough. They can handle it.
Yeah. You know,
I need the palate cleanser.
It's not them. It's me.
Exactly. It's me. They can handle it. I know. Respect for the audience. No, it's me.
So that's our episode. We'll catch you on the next one. Deja, looking forward to it.
Me too.
And I guess just keep it a hot mess.
Thanks.
Thank you.